Hello everybody, this is Dakota. So I'm making this video because I just spent $4 to watch a docudrama that is just horrible. That's the only way I can put it. I am also here with my partner. You will hear him occasionally, but I will not be showing his face. To basically sum up the really, really bad part is that, like, after watching this, I am convinced that basically, so first let's start off with this documentary is centered around the story of someone who was transgender and committed suicide, and basically her mother's story of that. The really bad part is it is only her mother's perspective, and it's a really twisted perspective because
it's got a lot of biases.
But basically it claims that her daughter wasn't actually trans and was hurt by being part of the trans community and trying to transition. However, I was not convinced that that was the case. Her mother said, I'm going to try to stick to gender neutral pronouns, but if I slip up, then I apologize, because I feel like this person was truly trans.
They referring to them as daughter and she.
Yeah, so if I slip up, that's my bad. But they were one of the only things that even sounded semi-close to not wanting to be trans was some complaints that were about, like, her bones hurting or, like, hurting, but I don't think this is a result of being on the hormone blockers, as the documentary tries to suggest it is. It very much feels like it's kind of taken out of context. Also, if the child, whatever, wanted to get off of the hormone blockers, they could have talked to the doctor, or just not taken the hormone blockers, period. Mm-hmm. Some kids just don't show up to doctor appointments, don't take their pills, whatever it is. They made it seem like it was a pill that they were taking, but I don't know if that's how hormone blockers work. I am a little ignorant on this. Mm-hmm. I will be honest. But it just feels really ingenuous. Mm-hmm. And then basically the last bit of it before basically the girl commits suicide is that she told the mother that she will never be like her brother, and it kind of showed her struggle with, being accepted as a man, like, and I'm just like, yeah, not being accepted and feeling like you will never be the gender you identify with. And the whole time the mother's just not really being supportive until basically her hand is forced in order to, like, keep custody. And that part's a complicated part that I'm not going to get into. But yeah, so I am convinced that this child is an FTM, female to male, who was genuinely a transgender man, because basically her all of the things they talk about throughout the whole thing sounded very genuine, very real, like she was really a trans man. And the whole time they have all these detransitioners, talking about, like, their experience and how bad, like, transitioning was and all this stuff. But not once is there any sign that this person wanted to detransition. So honestly, I'm convinced that the real pronoun to use for this person is he, him. I don't know if they used a fake name for what he was trying to go by, or if they used his real name in the thing they called him Evan. So if that was what he really wanted to go by, I would call him Evan. But yeah, it's kind of disgusting because this person is clearly, even in this biased documentary, this person is clearly still a trans man. Like, I'm not convinced that he regretted being trans. I feel like he committed suicide because he wasn't accepted, because he felt like he could not be a real man and he would never be accepted as such. Especially with the "I'll never be like my brother" line tells me that he'll be like, he just doesn't feel like he'll ever be recognized. And honestly, I get it, because I experience, not like to the point of I'm going to act on it, but I experience suicidal thoughts, just feeling like I will always be forced into a female and male box, and I will never be recognized as just a non-binary person, as just me. You know, I get it when you don't feel like you'll ever be accepted, that you'll never be enough. Like, I don't feel like I'm androgynous enough to truly, like, for anybody to truly recognize me as a non-binary person. I just don't feel like I am enough.
And also, as a trans person that I am, watching this just makes me feel like no matter what I do, my biology will always make me a certain thing. And that's really upsetting.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like what they're trying to advocate for is people coming to their senses and loving who they were born as. And it's never been about my biology. I want people to stop looking at my biology.
Yeah. And like this whole documentary advocates basically anti-trans stuff. Like
get trans kids help, teach them that they don't have to transition.
Like it's definitely anti-trans kids for sure, because I think the people used were specifically people who transitioned as minors, and you know, like started out transitioning as minors and then continued transitioning and regretted it.
They were also talking like there was a whole class and no one in there was straight and cis, and it's just like, that's not the reality. The whole USA is not gay. In fact, a lot of times people are still not okay with ideology. It was talking about how like gender fluid is a thing that they know about, and like even in the community, gender fluid, like in the gay community.
Dude, no one ever knows what gender fluid is. People be acting like everyone knows shit, but they don't. It's crazy. But yeah, I mean, you just, well, and it's so disgusting because you have the most conservative bias possible with this.
Like, there's no one who has actual like reasoning on the other side. They're all very highly partisan.
Yeah. Like, all of their people are very highly advocative of like specifically their psychiatrist
Anti-trans.
was like very biased on conservative as far as like you can look, I looked up, well, my partner actually looked up the psychiatrist, and she clearly was a very heavily biased on the conservative side. Like,
Yeah,
she has a
she's a
reputation in that.
conservative activist.
And then with the doctor, what we found was his profession was like as an
Endocrinologist. He works with diabetes and metabolic
and not really working, like, he's not
working
a
with
pediatric like he doesn't work with adolescents and stuff. I mean, he probably would if they had diabetes, but like that, like, he wasn't really specialized enough to be talking on this subject. And it was just so disturbing, because you also have a lot of misinformation. Some of the statistics they gave were things that if you try to look it up, there are various different things that say different things. There is not a consensus on some of these things. Like, it is... It is highly biased. Very... And they just twist a lot of what the LGBT community says and does. They made every step of this person's transition like it was some dark, twisted thing. Like, it was... Every step was a step towards their death. And that's how they want to portray trans people. And honestly, I would rather someone more articulate than me to break down this documentary.
Review and give decent arguments and do better. Because we have communication problems.
Yeah, like... Dude, y'all, I'm just recording on my phone. I'm not... I don't do YouTube as a, like, job or anything. I'm not a professional YouTuber. I'm just making videos because why not?
It affects all of us, and people need to be aware of this propaganda, and that they take a bunch of, like, semi-truths and then leave out information and twist it with bias, and it's obvious that they're playing one side. Like, there's no talking about other kids. There's what they were actually thinking. There's no extra evidence.
And honestly, like the kid's story is just really... The kid's story doesn't really get told from her their perspective. Like, they are just... Because, well, obviously they can't share their perspective because they're dead. And so all you have is her mom to tell the story, but let's be honest here, parents, especially of trans people, are not always the most reasonable about what being trans actually is.
They think they are seeing a particular reality, and the kid is the one that's delusioned and confused. And it's never like your kids can't make decisions because the prefrontal cortex doesn't develop until the early 20s. But why is it that in Oklahoma you have to be 26 before you can get any gender affirming health care?
Yeah. I don't know if that one got passed or not. It might be just a proposed one, but but that is one that's either on the table or already passed.
Yeah.
And like, so to sum this up, what really why I'm even making this is that I spent $4 freaking to watch a documentary that is about a trans person committing suicide because they weren't accepted, and a mother taking advantage of their suicide to promote their agenda. Their conservative anti-trans agenda. And I just feel like, how sick can you be? How sick can you be? And really, with all the anti-trans bills getting passed, and especially targeting kids, like the anti-trans wave is hitting kids mostly, but it is going to get to adults. Because it starts with the kids, and then it slowly creeps its way into the adults. Like that's just how that kind of thing goes. And honestly, like, it kind of creeps me out because I had a bunch of coincidences surrounding, like, anti-trans. Like, I kind of... Two of these you could be like are superstitious, whatever, so you don't have to believe me on this. But I did get some spiritual enlightening that kind of was saying, like, things are just going to get worse for the trans community. And, like, it could get really, really bad. I also had a dream that was very symbolic of, like, basically shit's about to hit the fan with the trans community, or just society in general. But basically shit's gonna hit the fan. And, like, I happened to be running across a bunch of anti-trans stuff. Like, it was mostly accidental, and then because I got on it accidentally, I started watching it more purposefully, like looking more into it, and I saw a bunch of crazy shit, like, straight up people, like, I think it's the governor of Tennessee. It's either the governor or some political figure, but he literally calls for
eradication of transgenderism in public life.
Yeah. And it's like, basically, I'm not allowed to exist in public life.
Yeah.
I shouldn't even be allowed to go outside my door. That's what that's saying. Like, and that is disgusting. I am glad I don't live in one of these really bad states, but I am terrified of it getting here. And what's so messed up is, like, after I went, all these coincidences, like, happened basically in the course of a few hours, and, like, and then my partner gets the ad for this horrific
Film.
docudrama on a Gray Still Plays video, of all things. Like, he was doing nothing to incite anti-trans or trans-related videos or anything. He was just watching a gamer play some games, and he got an ad for this horrific documentary.
It's just really sickening, because I'm a transgender person, so I get that ad while I'm just trying to enjoy myself, and it's just like, oh, I see. I'm supposed to detransition and act like a woman and put on makeup and a dress and act ladylike, and it's disgusting. I really feel disgusted.
I'm more comfortable acting ladylike if I am allowed to live as a non-binary person. If I'm allowed to live as a non-binary person, I'm okay wearing a dress. I'm okay, putting on makeup. But honestly, if I'm forced into being a girl, that just sounds really disgusting. It just sounds awful. And so, like, to just get this ad while someone's minding their own business is so disgusting, and it's gonna promote more of this anti-trans stuff. It's gonna make us out more and more to be to dehumanize us, really, because that's what they're doing. We get called pedophiles, we get called groomers. Like, it is their way of dehumanizing us, and it's sick. So yeah, I think
Tell name of the movie.
Shoot, yeah. Name of the I'll also put a link for it in the description, like like where I watched it, although you'd have to pay $4, so feel free to look for it illegally if you can. Not actually encouraging it, but it's definitely not worth.
They don't deserve money.
They don't deserve money. Yeah. But what I don't know what was the name of it?
I think the name of the place is theepoch.com, but the name
Epoch
of the
TV.
movie is Gender Transformations: The Untold Stories.
Yeah. And of course, the Epoch TV is already just a very
Hyper-partisan,
already a very biased right
Untold
wing.
Realities, my bad.
Untold Realities. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it'll be in the description. So you guys can see the name of it and all that stuff. Like I said, very, very disturbing. I hope somebody more articulate than me will actually break this down and review it, because I'm not the best person for this job. But I think it needs to be talked about, so please spread the word. Thank you, bye.